Our guess is that you've most likely never heard of the Dispilio Tablet, so what's the big deal? Well, it's to do with the origins of writing and the fact that at the moment the internet will lead you to believe that the Dispilio Tablet represents the earliest known writing, 2,000 years before Egyptian hieroglyphs and Sumerian cuneiform. The trouble is, what most people believe to be the Dispilio Tablet is actually an imposter. So, how do we know it's an imposter? How did it become an imposter, and what the heck does it all mean? I suppose in order to unpack all that, our best bet is to wind it all back to the beginning. And, well, over to you, Rupert. I think you've got a few words to say.
Well, just a bit of background, really. Yeah. So, Dispilio, in what is now northern Greece. It's a Neolithic lakeside settlement, and it was inhabited from roughly 7,400 years ago until it was abandoned around 5,600 years ago, named after the nearby village of Dispilio, where it was found. It was discovered back in 1932 during a dry winter when the lake levels were quite low. But it wasn't excavated until the 1990s. A team led by Professor George Homoziadis.
Well done.
From the Aristotle University of Thessalonica. Now, thousands of objects were found during the excavations, thousands of them. And to name but a very few, there were ceramics, cooking utensils, numerous stone and bone tools, a bone flute even, which I think is rather lovely.
Oh.
And then, whilst removing all the mud from an excavation trench that was going down into the water, a piece of cedar wood, about so big, floated to the surface, now known as the Dispilio Tablet, and it seemed to have been engraved with what has come to be interpreted as writing.
Yeah, when Rupert says so big, he means, well, we're told, 9 inches by 7 inches or something,
yes.
Something like that. Anyway,
if it was probably round, a dinner plate.
Yeah, you can probably see something on the screen right now. And if you're seeing this right now, the alert amongst you will say, "Hang about, that's not the picture at the beginning. That's not the picture on the thumbnail, or even that's not the picture I'm used to seeing on the internet." Okay. Right, well, hold on to your hats. You know, we'll trace this back to the beginning of the myth of the, if I can call it that, I suppose, the myth of the Dispilio Tablet. Well, George Homoziadis announced all this, his finding, at a conference in 1994, I think. Was it in Thessalonica? I don't know. By which time he had a little time to look at the tablet, and he had become convinced that what was on there, those markings on the tablet, could represent some form of writing. And he was bold enough to say so at this conference in 1994, at this presentation in 1994, at which point apparently he told the assembled that he identified 8 symbols embedded in all the stuff on the tablet. Now, I don't know whether he meant to keep this as a sort of academic discussion, or whether he just wanted to proceed with this academically, and go down the normal routes. But it was a public thing, and this presentation was picked up by the Greek media. And this is where it begins to be blown out of proportion, because
what a surprise! That never happens.
Because folks started jumping up and down about the alphabet was invented in Greece. It wasn't brought to us by the Phoenicians via via the east, via cuneiform and via Egyptian hieroglyphics. The alphabet is ours. Hooray! I'm making fun of it, but it got quite serious.
Yeah.
And then later on, 1996, was the artist publishes a book, I think mostly about the tablet. Now, the trouble is, what we have here is that he's publishing in Greek. And he's publishing papers in Greek or books in Greek. So, off the top of it, we don't have access to that. I wouldn't know where to find them anyway. But apparently, and this is something, you'll be familiar with when I show you this, he produced a table showing now that he distinguished 11 signs, 11 symbols within the scratch marks or whatever they are on the piece of cedar wood. And that was included in a table in the book, which you can probably see now. And anybody doing a research on this or searching the internet or going to Wikipedia even will be familiar with this table. On the left-hand side, you'll see the 11 signs that you distinguished. In the second and third columns, you see symbols from the Minoan Linear A and Linear B scripts, and over on the right, those symbols are from Vinča culture over in the Balkans. So that is one part of the equation here. Because there's so little information, people go on this one table for what they understand the symbols in the on the tablet are.
The trouble is that the photograph that everybody sees of this, we call it a fake. It's basically a badly briefed reconstruction. It seems that they wanted a replica for the museum or for the public to be able to see, which is it's common. That's what happens with valuable artifacts, that a replica is made that stays where the public can see it, and the actual piece gets taken to a museum for whether it's preservation. Certainly in this case, it needs to be kept in an anaerobic environment.
Yeah,
it being wood, and it seems that the person who created the replica was told it's a piece of wood with random characters on it, but amongst those characters are these. And so this person has created a replica with those characters. And everybody, I say everybody, I'm going to say like 99% of people who have researched and written and referenced the Dispilio Tablet are using the bad replica as their source material. There is even an academic paper that you can access, which says how one of the things that they've missed on the tablet is that it's an actual scale map of the area around Dispilio. But the point is that there's nothing to do with it. It was made up. Yeah. So it's all pareidolia, really. It's faces in the fire. That even looking at if you compare the original, the actual piece of wood that came out of the excavations, if you really look at it objectively, now, okay, maybe there's it's writing, but it looks far more like a work surface where somebody has consistently been, maybe hammering with it, because it's all the same size tool that has made the marks. It's just when you really look at it, doesn't seem to be any consistency in it. Academics have said that you can see 10 rows of text on it, but if you really look honestly and objectively, well, I certainly can't see 10 rows. I don't know about you, Michael, but
no.
It just doesn't seem that way to me at all.
I am stumped in that regard. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, it's all right. So it does very much seem to be that it's a very honest mistake, because the truth is that whilst it's not difficult to find the pictures of a picture of the original tablet, it's not what's going to first appear when you search for it online. And I think this is partly because you had an excavation going on in. All right, it's an important site because of the wealth of artifacts that were found there. But in itself, it's not like a hugely important site in terms of cultural significance, if you like, for the time. So a lot of the artifacts that were excavated, people haven't been looking at all these things and saying, oh, this has got to be a major exhibition in a museum. It's not that sort of thing. They didn't stand out as being something that needed to be meticulously accurate for the world to see. So consequently, everybody has seen this bad replica, and academics looking for references to it have seen the bad replica because that's what everybody puts out, and made their interpretations based upon that. It's just a shame that nobody dug a little bit deeper.
I know. And it's really hard to pinpoint, any point in time, the fulcrum round about which this error seems to have grown. It seems to have been a sort of cascade of hubris, false pronouncements, misinterpretations, and simple mistaking of things. Just to be absolutely clear, if you can play this game, if you look at the fake one and look at each symbol on there, you can see that they're just a direct copy of the symbols in the table that who was the artist produced in his book in 1994. As we said, just bears no relationship to this photograph of the actual thing itself. And the question mark for us is, how did the artist actually extrapolate those symbols from what you see there to create this? They seem to occur randomly. They seem to have occurred by accident on this piece.
Yeah.
They don't repeat. They're not organized in any way that you would safely say that somebody's written something down to be understood. And if you're wondering if the horizontal lines you can see on the original piece of wood provide some kind of organizing principle for whatever script there may be, if you take them away, there's nothing left. What's left seems random. If it weren't for those horizontal lines, nobody would have given it a second glance as being the source of an original alphabet or something like that. The interesting... Sorry, Rupert.
No, I was going to say it's interesting that you can do look at random work surfaces. I tried and I couldn't find a leatherworker's work surface because I thought the sorts of tools that you use in leatherwork could give rise to these sorts of things. But you look at something like a cutting board, that whether it's a breadboard or just a cutting board that people use in cooking or anything else, that the consistency of direction, because somebody generally uses the board that way round, and the fact that there are marks that continue over an edge. Somebody could have turned it round, put it between their knees while they carried to work on something. You can see, if you just look at a general, just Google woodblock work surfaces or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can see that you can see within the randomly made markings that over time lines overlap and they create shapes. Like you get triangles by the dozen.
Hey, look, here's one I made earlier, Rupert.
Nicely done.
This this cutout of it is actually roughly the right size as well.
Yeah.
And when I look at it, I see if you are doing something, if you're working on it, if we're working through something like leather, you need to choose a new free space on this to punch through on. Otherwise, what you're doing will be compromised by a mark. You won't be able to work as efficiently.
The tool's going to be diverted by what's underneath.
The other thing I find looking at this is it's not a flat. This surface is not flat. And the marks seem to be influenced by the shape of the surface, by the contours of the surface of it. Mm-hmm. We can't do a deep dive because this is all we've got. That's the other extraordinary thing. There's only this one photograph of the original piece that came up. Then it seems to disappear. It's not taken from any other angles. I mean, it's an important thing to note that there are marks on the top edge of it along there, as if somebody, put it between their knees and sort of worked on it from the top.
Well, that's what we're suggesting. Yes, yeah. I know. I mean, other interpretations are available, I'm sure, but this is just our take. The interesting thing is, Rupert, that Humosiatis himself seemed to backtrack in the ensuing years. He really did.
He started.
Well, in the face of, I mean, some people were making some extreme claims and saying that they had actually translated what it said on the tablet, but of course they were basing this on the reproduction anyway.
Yeah.
So Humosiatis, he actually said at one point that everything that has been written about this is nonsense.
I've got the actual quote here. He says, everything written about the tablet is bullshit. That's what he actually said. But he said this in an interview. He didn't write this down. This is a transcript of what he said. Everything written on the sign is bullshit with a capital B and double underlined.
Right.
Some have even read the name Castori, which is the name of the lake upon which the settlement is. And he says, that isn't idiocy. To put it bluntly, it's imbecility. And that was in 2009, so we're a bit further down the line here. Right.
But it has to be said, it's sad that Humosiatis he's dead now. He died a little while back. So we can't talk to him directly, but you have to feel for him, don't you? That you make a discovery and then everybody else runs with it and turns it into something crazy.
I know, but here's the thing: all this, this inflated in the 2000s, and I mean, we weren't there, we weren't aware of it. We're only gleaning this after the event, but apparently this was a big deal in Greece. There was huge arguments about whether or not this represented the early Greek alphabet. So it was a big thing. And I suspect that, like so many like us, like many academics, don't realize sometimes the political shitstorm that they're going to stir up when they say something, that speaks to nationalist fervour or anything like that.
I don't know when the artifact, the replica, if we can call it that. I don't know when that was actually made. I didn't get anything
that's
from that
the thing we have dug, and we haven't been able to find out this thing. But what we're saying is that the people basing their thoughts around the fake one is a relatively recent thing.
Yeah,
that's the point. So it's had this, after everything's died down, it's got this extra bounce, and it seems to be centered around this image, which seems to have got published on Wikimedia Commons at some point. And so it's a good image. It's a much, much, much clearer and better image than the one from the book, which gets copied from the book. So everybody's run with that, and it's nothing like the original. Sorry to bang on about it.
And the thing is that the replica is hanging on a wall in the open air museum at Dispilio, and that is what everybody is referencing still. And I have a niggling worry that because it is said, and it's been reported even recently, that the tablet, the actual tablet, is under what's the word? Not investigation. Doesn't matter. But they're looking into that now, and it is being preserved. The worry I have about it is that there is only that one photograph, as Mike said earlier. There is that one photograph exists. There are no photographs available of it taken from any other angle or the reverse, which you would think, you would have thought they must have done. And I have a niggling worry that actually the tablet has just, it's not been professionally preserved, and so it's actually fallen to bits, and nobody's confessing that they no longer have it to research.
That nobody wants to step into this area anymore at all. Actually,
it's possible. I mean, we do know that the carbon dating on it is solid. It was dated at the time, so we know that it sits with the sort of 7,000 to 7,300 years old. But yeah, no other pictures available. That's a red flag.
But what does it all mean, Rupert? Basically, it means that everything you get from a search on the Dispilio tablet on the internet is wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the photograph, it's not just the image, is that most people have written based on that image.
Yeah, yeah.
It's, it just blows it out of the water.
To be fair, there is only one paper that we have found, which is about the carbon dating of the site, which does talk about the tablet, but the paper is actually talking about the site as a whole. And that is the only item that we have found that is solidly accurate about the excavations. So that's one out of many. In fact, do you know what? It's worth saying. Even the Daily Mail ran an article about this, and they led with a photograph of the fake tablet, the bad replica, and then blah 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 blah. And then later in the article, there's another photograph with a caption underneath. This is the actual tablet. It's like, well, why didn't you lead with that? It's just. It's just weird.
Yeah. I think for the time being, enough said. The thing is, there are so many avenues that this opens up, so many spheres of what we could talk about in terms of the origins of language, where it came from. We haven't even talked about Vinci culture and the symbology, involved there. But all these are rabbit holes which would take us forever to unravel. But just for the moment, I think our duty is done, just to point out that the Dispilio tablet you see is an imposter, and don't believe everything you see on the internet. Just before we go, however, before we leave this alone, how did we come across Dispilio? Well, strangely enough, we weren't.
Good point, Michael.
we weren't interested in the Dispilio tablets. But, we're the prehistory guys. We don't do writing. You may or may not know about our thing called the Göbekli Tepe to Stonehenge project. Details about that up in the corner there and down in the description below if you want to find out more. But the thing was, we were looking for locations to film in Greece next year, as part of that project, telling the story of the Neolithic. And just Dispilio itself leapt out because it's got this lakeside reproduction Neolithic settlement there. Works well from a photographic and cinematic point of view. You're trying to tell the narrative and the story of the Neolithic. So we thought, we'll go there. Oh, hang about, what's this? The Dispilio tablet? Oh, never heard about that before. Yeah. Oh, really? Writing earlier than cuneiform and hieroglyphics and linear A and B and stuff. Well, we'll have some of that. Look, what's on the internet? Oh, that's interesting. Hang about.
Yes, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. And here we are.
Yeah. Yes. Hey-ho, well, there you are. That's what we do. We try to keep things real. You might still think there's writing on it. It's the point is that it's not what has been claimed. Let's put it that way. So maybe not. Anyway, do click like and subscribe. It helps the channel along.
Yeah, do you know what? We're fast approaching 100,000 subscribers. If we can get there. Yeah. Job's a good one. Help us get there. Thanks a lot. All right.
Thanks for watching, folks. See ya.
Hope you enjoy that. Bye-bye.
Bye. I think that did the job. And stop. And Audacity, where are you?